Welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to show you how the cable racking and routing module works. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a little picture I drew in Paint, just explaining how the racks are defined. So as you can see here, I've got a little drawing of racks. So what I've got here is my main rack A. Let's say it comes from the MCC and it goes all the way to the right hand side to where it stops right there. Now here it splits and you can see that it gets renamed to A1 and A2 if we look at that. So from A2 I put in another split which splits into A21 and A22. So every time it splits, a number just gets added, either a 1, 2 or 3, and it goes in order. A21 I split again into A211 and A212. So that is just quickly how these racks are defined, and now we can go back to the racking and routing module and I can show you how we create them. I'm firstly going to click on Go Racking and Routing, and once that is open I'll click on Open Module, which opens the racking and routing module and shows me exactly which racks have been defined so far. As you can see, we've got a text box that says no racks defined. So let's create our first rack by either clicking on New Rack or right clicking and clicking on New. Once I click on that, the tag number dialog box opens up for this new rack. Here you can see. Firstly, I've got my rack number and my rack code. The rack code is the internal code Ondays uses to make sure these racks go in the right order. The rack number we can change by clicking on the little browse button, and that would open up the familiar tag number dialog box. If you can see, we can open up like that. I'm going to leave it as A for now, give it a quick description, maybe something like main rack. Location would be, let's say, MCC. Next we give a length in units. I'm going to take this as 100, width as 0.4, depth as 0.4, spacing as 0.02, and an 80% fill factor. Here we can also take environmental factors into account if there are any predefined, and I can now say OK. So once I say OK, my main rack A will be created, and as you can see, there it is, my main rack A. So I'm going to quickly recreate this paint drawing and then we'll continue with the video. Now that I'm back here, you can see that only one rack is still missing. So I've got my A, which splits into A1 and A2. As we can see, there is A, splits into A1, A2. If I carry on, A2 splits into A21 and A211. So there is A21. Oh, and A22. Sorry for misleading you there. There's A222. So it splits into those, and A21 splits into A211 and A212. As you can see, A212 is still missing. So I'm going to click on A21, right click on it, and I can say new subrack for it, and I can give it a nice little description. See, I'm just going to call it last rack created. And I'll just leave all these values the same for now, seeing that this is just an example. Right, so now we've got our little rack system going here, and I want to route a few cables on this rack. So let's say I select my 300 JB 03 cable, and I want to route it from A all the way to A212. So all the way it goes through there, down that line, down or left there, and down all the way to the bottom here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on A212, I'm going to click on auto route, and I'm going to tell it, okay, this is the route I selected for this cable. Now we can go to our right hand side with the calculation options. We can choose either this cable jumps off how many units from the beginning of the rack, so many units from the end of the rack. So let's say just before the end of rack 212, 3 meters before that, or 3 units before that, the cable jumps off and it goes 2 meters on an angle iron. This cable uses rack width and it's got a, let's say, 2 units free cable length. Now I can say use as cable route. See, the computer is calculating this route now, working out the length of this cable. So if we look here in the bottom, if this is not available for you, please click on the cables on the rack button up top so it shows you all the cables on the relevant rack. If I scroll to the right, I've got a length calculator there, and my length is 401 units. So this is pretty nice, but let's say I want to route a set of cables LT001 to LT005 onto this guy, onto H01, and I don't want to do each of them separately. So I'll go and just double click on a cable so my route or rack display area is cleared up. I'll select these 5, select my rack I want them to go to, auto route, tell it this is the route selected for the end of a rack, 1 meter or 1 unit, 1 unit angle iron, and each of them have got 2 units free cable length. Tell them use this cable route, and it now works out the length for all 5 of these cables. If we go to the right hand side, you'll see that this length is 402. Right, so now we may also want to route a cable just from A1 to A212. So let's take LT006 for an example. So I'm going to click on A1. Now I can either say select rack, or I can now right click and say select rack, and next it would go from A1. So let's view this route quickly. I want it to go from there all the way down to there at the bottom once more. So it's from there or to there from here. So it's going to go A1, A2, A21, A212. So I'll select A1, click on A2, I'll click select rack, A21, select rack, and A212, select rack. So now that these have been selected, I can tell this guy this is my route selected. I can put in my calculation options once again, and I can now go and just say use as cable route. So once I click on that, my LT006 route is highlighted. As you can see, it does not go through A this time. And let's have a quick look at this cable. It worked out our length as 310. So our cable has been routed along this route. Now let's say I change a rack length. So I'm going to right click on A21 and I'm going to click on modify. It's not 100 anymore, it is now 50. I can say OK. Now if I want to figure out how long these cables are, I can just click on the recalculate cable lengths button. It recalculates all the cables according to these new units we have, and if we look, we are some of the cables, or all of the cables that have followed that route are quite shorter, so it gives us for these. Alright, so that is how we use the cable racking and routing module. Thank you for watching this video. There are more videos on our website www.desoft.co.za, and you can also make video requests from there.